All right, this is Dave, watching Broken Quattros, working on the Titan car a little bit today. Don't have a lot of time. I'm gonna try to do a couple quick things and see if anything works out. One of the things I want to take a look at are the lower door trims here. So you can see these, they have a tendency to fail. They kind of look bad, but basically it has like a C-shaped channel piece of metal in here, and they tend to rot out, and when they rot out, they stop holding to the clips that they're supposed to stay onto, and they start to deform like that. So we'll try to replace that piece. Another thing that I'd like to do is come around here and mount up my S2 bumper, make it look a little bit more like a car. It means we need to delete off our US spec mounting provisions for the 5-mile-an-hour bumpers that we got. Another thing I'd like to work on. I mentioned that the radiator had a broken nipple. It's that nipple from the reservoir to the radiator, and so that was a Nissan's radiator. I've had bad experiences with them in the past. They tend to be a very cheap product, and I just try to avoid them. So I ordered up a Hella slash Behr, B-E-H-R, I assume it's pronounced that way, radiator as well. Ordered that up. I had to actually order it out of the UK, so I had it shipped over from the UK. It arrived quickly. Unfortunately, it arrived like this, with the nipple missing here. Contacted the seller, let him know. Like, the box kind of looks a little bad too, but let the seller know. He apologized and said he'd send out another one. So he got another one out literally the next day, and I got it the day after that. So it came super fast. They were super responsive, helpful. I opened both of them actually in the presence of the FedEx people who delivered them. The second one, even though it was wrapped along the outside, was wrapped in plastic, it was also broken in the exact same place, exact same way, and the actual piece that was broken off was nowhere to be found in the packaging, which makes me wonder if it was broken before it was even shipped. I asked him for pictures of the radiators, and if they, you know, he had pictures from before they were shipped or anything like that, and that part of my question went unanswered. So I don't know if they're just trying to clear out dead stock or something like that, or broken stock and going the route of insurance or something. I don't know. But it's frustrating because I wanted a good radiator and I wasn't getting it. So one of the things I'm going to try is that I ordered up a small NPT fitting here. I'm going to drill and tap that and just see if I can't use a little barbed fitting like this, see if it works, see if it'll hold pressure and do what I want. Don't know. We're going to try that, see what happens. If it works, great. If not, no harm, no foul. So anyway, let's get to work. Tapped, died. We're gonna take off this end cap and we're gonna blow it out and just see if we can't get any of the plastic out. Not a lot of threads on that, so not sure how well this is gonna work, but it goes in really smooth. It looks really good, actually. I'm gonna use some, I can't even get it out with my fingers. I think that's gonna work. I think I might put some sealant of some kind around here, something that'll set, some kind of epoxy, just to make it a little bit more permanent and dispel any other doubts I might have about it. But I think that's what we're gonna try out. So we're gonna take a little epoxy here, a little 2-part, mix her up. Really just needs a dab. I just want to put a little on the thread and just to have it kind of on the threads and on the top base of it, just so it has enough to, not going to go anywhere. So we're just going to literally just put a little bit like right up in here. So it's not going to be in the radiator at all. It'll just be attached to the outside where it sits on top of the radiator. That's all we want, just a little bit on there. Let's scrape this off. Okay. So yeah, we're gonna fit this in here. Goes in really nice. That way it'll be a little bit more permanent. Just like that. So hopefully you can see that. Just a little something to keep it nice and sealed. Feel good about that. Okay, we'll dispose of the rest of our stuff here. Okay, pulled this out of the garage, or well, actually it was in the basement, but this is, I'm gonna call it an S2 bumper. Well, this technically is probably from a V6 Coupe in Europe. It is the same style with a lack of headlight washers that normally go in there, but it has the stuck out lip, lower ventilation. This allows for the S2 style intercooler to fit nicely behind it. So yeah, this one's in good condition besides the paint. Looks like it has been repainted. Looks like it was once red, which really doesn't matter because it's gonna get painted again, this time hopefully Titan. So here this is. These are getting increasingly hard to find because in Europe they're becoming more rare, and then of course shipping them from Europe is the only way that you can get them here in the US. So finding someone who's willing to actually ship this your way or ship it across the pond and package it properly so that it doesn't get broken. I've had many of these that break right here on the seam. You know, this gets yanked on and pulled, gets caught on something in shipping. So unless they tie these two ends together really well, there's a good chance that it's going to get damaged or broken, or yeah. And then it's a fun thing where certain people will promise to take care of you and some people won't, and yeah, it's tricky. So having a good one is a good thing, but this is 1,000 times better looking than the original USDM Coupe bumpers. So we're going to take off the mounts for this. This actually has already the mounts on it. Luckily there's no re-drilling or anything like that needed. It's literally remove that one, put on this one. So it's really good. And then of course it lines up with your fender flares and everything else like that, so everything fits really nicely once you get it off. I'm guessing this one was from England since this is all rusty, because the only part on the bumper that could actually rust are these caption nuts, and pretty common on those English cars. Anyway, moving forward. One thing about when I do these cars that's kind of fun, I always like finding like rare and unusual parts. There's been a really hard part for me to find. I've had a few opportunities over the years to buy one, but I never really did just because of the price. Because in Europe, there was a model that was called it was the Audi 90 competition, and actually, I guess it was an 80 competition in Europe. Anyway, there was this limited edition production car run for homologation reasons. They built a car and it had a different aero package on it. And while it had the same basic bumper as the S2, it had a splitter, the small splitter lip on the bottom. I bought a what is this called? I bought a replica version of this, and unfortunately it doesn't fit as nice as I'd like, but I still might try to sand it and try to get it into place for this car at a later time. But it basically, it sits right here ish. It just adds a little splitter to it, and it's supposed to wrap nicely around here and sync up to the bumper, but it kind of doesn't. This one is oddly shaped and poorly made. I have, the competition package also had spoiler risers for the B4 model, or a gurney flap, I guess, off of the back of that spoiler, which is really cool. I have an original set of the extensions, but I do not have any of the other original parts. Like I said, I bought this as a replica thinking it might be nice, and the truth is it's, I don't know if it's gonna work. It's bowed out and just not quite right, and because it's fiberglass, it's not ABS or something, you can't really just remold it. If it was molded out of ABS plastic, it'd be really easy to tweak and make work. I might try sanding it and try to make it fit nicer, but no promises on that. I'd like to make it look, I think they look really, really cool when they're actually installed and fitting how they should. But I like OEM clean looks, and while it's definitely an OEM plus kind of thing, The fitment on this is just not great. So just to talk about the bumper removal for a second. Probably should stop moving while I do this. So obviously my bumper's already off, my stock bumper that is. On the US spec bumpers, really simple. There's a bolt that comes from the bottom all the way through here that holds on the metal rebar piece. Seriously, it's a, I believe it's a 6mm or a 5mm, pretty sure it's a 6 though, on both sides. That'll allow you to take out that whole large middle metal reinforced section. Then you just have the apron. Apron's attached in a few places along the trim underneath the body here, underneath the lights here, and then in the wheel wells there. Really easy to take off. For removal, so these bumper shocks, so in the US we had what were called 5-mile-an-hour bumpers. Basically the Department of Transportation decided that any car should be able to withstand a 5-mile-an-hour crash without any structural damage. To achieve that, a lot of manufacturers use this style of strut where it can move in and out. It forced us to have these two-piece bumpers, and that's why we have them. So anyway, to reverse that, you got to take out, there's three 13mm bolts on both sides, plus there's one along the frame rail that can be tricky. Sometimes it's a pain to get, but these ones are really easy. And then when we're bolting this back up, it's kind of funny because the Euro bumper just uses these two right here to hold it on. So they're actually in the same location. So it's really a simple thing, yeah. So anyway, I might show, yeah, this one, it's hard to see because it's kind of behind the condenser, or the dryer here. It's this bolt right down here, directly beneath my finger. I'm touching it now. I don't know if that's coming through the camera, but that's the bolt. A ratcheting 13mm works really well for that. On this side, we got, you can kind of see it, I got a stupid alarm here, but it's down over here on the frame rail again. Same kind of thing. So we'll get to those. Okay, I got the mounts off on both sides. I'm gonna take off these bolts first. It almost seems like if I just wait another couple of weeks, the thing will almost rust itself away. There's not much of a nut left on there. It's supposed to look more like that. Even that one's pretty rusted away. Probably end up cutting those off really fast and then moving forward and installing this beast. Looks like the spiders have made it home. Okay. Okay, I got all those out with minimal amounts of effort. So surprisingly, none of the actual, I had to cut this one. None of these are actually broken. A lot of times these are torn through, ripped out. It's actually really surprising. So that's good. We'll mount it up and see how she looks. Don't mean to state the obvious, but this is literally just two bolts finger tight, and the fitment is so good. Like, it doesn't have any of the bolts in there yet. It's just, I mean, it is OEM fitment because it's an OEM part, but it looks so much better. Oh, this one's a little sloppy. There we go. But yeah, such a better looking bumper than what we got here. So, just wanted to touch on one other thing. When converting to the European bumper, obviously, this is where your headlight and turn signal are on the stock V3 coupes in the US. Down here is actually where, on the stock V3 coupe, you'd actually have a fog light down here. The nice thing is you can actually move this turn signal wiring right to here, so you have you can put in the European turn signal without changing anything. You can run the European headlights, you can run the B3 style, which wrap around with small grille. You can run the B4 or RS2 style ones. However, you'll have a bit of a gap here, or you can run the B4 hood that we also have here in the US. You can find in junkyards. And then also the fog light, it uses the same exact plug, so you literally can just plug in your European fog light into your stock wiring and it works just as it should. So it's super simple, super fast, and a huge upgrade in the looks department. So anyway, It's coming along, slowly but surely. Maybe we'll take a look at that next. Okay, try to pull this off. Best thing to do is open the door, and then this should pull literally just straight out, kind of like that. And now it is off. So, like I was saying, the metal, this metal C-shaped thing gets rusted out and fails, and then it can no longer hold on to the C-channel clips that actually hold it on. So we'll spray this off just with some Windex, get it cleaned up a little bit, and then we will install the new one. Okay, so we removed it, cleaned it. Now we're going to put on the new one. Before I do that, I'm going to throw on some white lithium grease, very, very lightly, just through here. So my wife would say, before you shove that thing anywhere, make sure you lube it. So let's just get a little bit of lube on here, just so it slides nicely and kind of sits in there. You shouldn't need any RTV, you shouldn't need any kind of glue, adhesive, or anything on these. They sit in place very well. There is a locking tab. It goes like this, and it actually goes in one of the end caps here to kind of keep it locked in. But yeah, don't put any adhesive on it. It only makes things worse. Here it is after the white lithium. That's with the white lithium on there. So very, very little amount, just enough to kind of get it to slide a little bit and to track nicely. So now we'll throw this back in here and we should be done. Instead of just shoving it from the back, it's nice to kind of do it right from here. And you want to watch and make sure it's lining up with these. These can twist and turn and get kind of out of line. So you got to kind of watch them and make sure it's lining up nicely and catching on the next one and continuing on its merry little journey here. Oh, come on. It's hard to do this one-handed, but it's going, so. Almost there. Yep. Just got a little bit more. Boom. Oops, a little too far. We'll pull that back a little bit, but now we're set and in place. There you have it. It sits nice and flush now, not popping out or anything. We're happy.